Okay, I'm here at Woodstock Fruit Festival 2014 with a good friend of mine, Mr. Benjamin Vanolis.
Hi, buddy.
First question I want to ask you is, why are you called IronCladBen on YouTube? Because that's your channel, obviously.
I don't think anybody's ever asked me that, but I kind of always hoped that they did.
Right.
So it's I'll try to keep the story short, but basically a long time ago there was a band that I liked called Hum, and they were kind of big in the 90s, and they had this song called Ironclad Lou that I really liked the song, and I liked like the name of it.
Yeah.
And so I just sort of wanted to like adapt it to myself, like make it my, because I used that as like an internet nickname for a while, but my name wasn't Lou, so it kind of sounded stupid. So I just made like IronCladBen, and it just like sounded really cool, you know, when I was 16. And now it sounds kind of stupid, but I've been using it for so long that just like when I sign up on a new site, I just use that. And I guess also to some degree, like I went through a period of time where I was really obsessed with like bionics and like, you know, like robotic arms and stuff. And I went through a period where I wanted to be a doctor who made like, you know, robotic arms that like be able to shoot laser beams, and like had this fantasy of becoming like a cyborg myself. So
yeah, so I thought it was to do with weightlifting. I thought ironclad came from like I lift iron and I get stronger or something like that. So I'm like clad in iron muscles or something.
It's a healing reservoir.
I don't know. It's nothing to do with that.
No, but that kind of works, you know, because I do like the iron.
Okay.
And weightlifting and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah. So what's your story? I mean, how did you end up at Woodstock, and kind of where are you with this lifestyle of raw foods and stuff?
So sort of through my late 20s, my health kind of got progressively worse. In the beginning, slowly, to the point where I didn't notice it, and I just kind of chalked it up to like, oh, well, I'm not a kid anymore, you know, like having, you know, joint stiffness and pain, and sort of being tired all the time, and just not really feeling the best, like not feeling like, oh, I just don't feel like myself, I don't know what I need to like, just sort of, maybe I need to like sleep more, but it was like, I don't know how much I slept, or like got rest, or anything like that. I didn't feel particularly better. And then sort of later on, digestive problems really started kicking in, where it's like every meal I ate, just like, oh, what's wrong? And eventually it sort of dawned on, like I didn't think that was like a symptom of the food I was eating, because everybody else around me was eating that same food, and I was vegetarian, but like junk food vegetarian pretty much. And I'd always been thin my whole life, so I thought, I don't need to eat healthy. Like, that's not, that I just have the good genetics, you know? Yeah. And everyone was always like, well, it'll catch up to you. You can't just eat that crap forever. And it did catch up to me, but I never got fat. I just got a bunch of other health problems. Yeah. So I eventually, like, took it upon myself to get a food allergy test. Just maybe something I was eating, like, wasn't working out, you know? And I found out, it came back and I was allergic to like everything under the sun, like soy, gluten, brewer's yeast, dairy, lactose, like everything.
Yeah.
And I remember being on the phone with the doctor, and he was like, you know, telling me all this, like, you got all these food allergies. So I'm like, okay, so what medicine do you give me? Like, what do I got to go get? Like, can you write me a prescription? He's like, well, there's no medicine for this. I'm like, well, what do you mean there's no medicine? He's like, you got to eliminate these foods out of your diet. And I'm just like, so like, well, what am I gonna eat? Like, indignantly, you know? So I spent a lot of time like going to the health food store, buying like the gluten-free, you know, vegan macaroni and cheese. It's like a tiny little box, and it's like $7, and you eat one, and it's like a third of a meal. And, you know, having to drive farther to a different store that had all these specialty products, and none of them really tasted really good, and they cost a lot of money. My grocery bill is getting kind of high. And I didn't really feel that much better, and I was really frustrated. And I always sort of was like, took a lazy approach when it came to cooking, like just microwave it, you know, just do whatever's fast. I don't like to cook; it never turns out well. I'm just gonna do whatever's easy because I don't want to put in the time to have it not taste that much better. So in my sort of like lazy mentality, I decided that I was gonna start like making smoothies, that would just be like easier, and then there wasn't any, I didn't have to worry about gluten, or if I just put like smoothie stuff in there, which was fruits and vegetables, that like I would get by. But then I just sort of put everything in the refrigerator, in the blender, in the crappy blender, and it didn't taste very good. And I thought, oh, I should, maybe I should look up some smoothie recipes. So I Googled smoothie recipes, and who shows up in the search bar but Dan McDonald.
Right. The life regenerator.
Yeah. And so this is developing into a long story here, if that's okay.
Yes.
And so I started watching the channel, and I was like, oh, this dude's like living in an RV, like he's like kind of wacky, kind of stoner dude who I'm like, oh, that's funny, like just kind of laughing at him, but like, oh, these smoothie recipes are pretty good.
Stoner dude?
Yeah.
You think?
Oh yeah, he's doing tons of drugs and alcohol.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
But not anymore.
Not anymore, right?
Definitely recommend checking out his channel. But it's sort of like drugs does something to your brain. It's like somebody who like either they do drugs or they used to do drugs, just kind of by the way that they act. I don't know if that doesn't sound judgmental, but like there's that archetype, and he fit it really well. But I kind of enjoyed it because he was like a regular guy. He wasn't some dude in like a lab coat telling me, a bunch of stuff. He was relatable.
Yeah.
And so I watched the videos, started drinking more smoothies, like felt better. Kind of noticed that when I ate like pizza or stuff with gluten in it that I felt worse, but I didn't really have a clear direction of where I was going with it. But eventually like and then he was talking about this whole like spiritual thing too, and I was like laughing that off, like, oh, whatever, I'm not here for that, and eventually it just got to the point where I could sense such a difference between like eating healthy and not eating healthy, like the way it affected my body. My body became like, I became so tuned in to like how I was reacting that I was just like, okay, I got to get more into this. And then I just started like looking up other videos, and then found Mike, who runs the festival, found Durian Rider, found a few other people, and like got really engrossed in it, got really obsessed with it. Just wanted to have that, because I saw all these things that they were achieving athletically, and I was just like, I have always been kind of like Asperger's serially obsessive. I don't think I have Asperger's. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Wee bit.
Okay. But like, it's like I take one thing and I'm like, I want that. That's gonna be my focus, and I sort of get serially obsessive with things, and so it became like, I got to get this raw foods thing down. I gotta heal my body because I'm sick of feeling like crap all the time.
Yeah.
And so I just dove into it, and that was like 2011.
And was it like you just were 100% successful raw fooder straight away, easy, no problems, or what was your?
There was a lot of ups and downs on the way. Yeah, sure. I immediately went like just doing like 75% raw. I got all these benefits. And so I saw that I did the math in my head, and I said, well, if I do 100%, like, who knows what could happen, but I want to see it. Like, I need to know, I need to experience that. But yeah, struggled a lot with doing that. I sort of took like I read this blog about how like if you're building a new habit, you should try like a 3-week trial or a 30-day trial. So I did like a 30-day trial, and it like really was really cool, but very difficult, and I couldn't sustain it. And so for about 2.5 years, I just like kind of bounced around and like, was all raw for a while, but then would go back to cooked food and like really get kind of this bingey attitude. I never had a bad relationship with food until like I started getting into health, because then I was like really aware of what I was eating before. It's just like, oh, I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat this, and I couldn't even tell you what I used to eat because I don't really remember it because I didn't think about it much. So then it was about a year ago that, I don't know, just after like screwing up so many times, you kind of just learn from all your mistakes and eventually you get it. And so the past year or so has been 100%.
Awesome. So what are your, your tips for other people who want to, I guess they can follow your videos?
Yeah, okay, yeah, I have a lot of tips. Like I had this YouTube playlist on my channel called like Raw Food Success Psychology, where I've tried to like distill down a lot of those ideas that got me from like the mostly raw to the fully raw. But I would say like number one is like persistence. Like I think just keep trying. Like a lot of people rationalize why they can't. Well, I live in such and such city and it just doesn't work here, or I like have this job and my commute's this long and my coworkers do this, so I can't. Or you can your brain, like that part of your brain, like the lizard brain that gets reacts to fight or flight, can think up a million different ridiculous rationalizations. I am an Eskimo, or like whatever. Just do the best that you can, and realize, try to examine where you're rationalizing why you can't, and then address those questions. Well, maybe what if I did this differently? And I've had to adapt it and tried a lot of different things to be what worked for me, and a lot of it wasn't the mainstream advice that was being given out, and a lot of it was like stuff that I kind of had to figure out on my own. No one else was saying it because I had to figure out what worked for me. So I've tried to just use my channel as a way to share that with others, because maybe what's worked for me has worked for them, but not necessarily. But I felt like no one else was saying it, it needed to be said, and that's why I do videos.
Yeah, and now I guess would it be fair to say it's changed your life, because it seems like you're now in a new direction career-wise?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I never intended it to change my life, but it really did. It just, I think with unhealthy food, it's not necessarily cooked food. I don't want to put that all in a category, because I think there's hierarchies of, different levels of healthiness of cooked food. But just eating an unhealthy diet was a real easy way to kind of numb out your emotions and, make you ignore the fact that you weren't doing what you wanted with your life. And when you're on raw foods, you pretty much have to experience all your emotions. There's no running away from them, which is very difficult for some people, and that's part of the reason they go back to cooked foods. That took me a long time to it's like mastering feeling your emotions. It may sound ridiculous to someone who doesn't do raw foods, but it's like when you can't hide your emotions anymore, you have nowhere to run, and you have to look really deep within yourself, and you're not going to like everything you see, but that's okay. And so it just sort of gave me this sense that life was going to pass me by if I didn't make a change, and it was worth whatever sacrifices I had to make. And I have had to make some. I was an engineer and working in a good paying job, making pretty close to six figures, and and now I've gone back to school to pursue chiropractic. I want to be a doctor and help people with this lifestyle and other health type things, and I have a lot less money than I used to have, but sometimes when money's tight and there's bills, I just think back to, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had more money so I could travel to Thailand to go to some festival. I'm like, at least I'm not back at my old job feeling frustrated with my life.
Sure.
Some things are worth more than money, but I think the diet really, once you have nowhere to run from your thoughts and your emotions, it really makes you examine yourself, and it really forces you to become the best version of yourself almost.
Nice. Okay, well that's a nice point to end on. Thanks, Ben, for speaking.
All right, thank you for letting me talk.
Yeah. So go to Ben's channel, IronCladBen, for more of his information and inspiration. Do you have a website or a blog? Or?
No, just YouTube, and then I like to use Instagram and post a lot of pictures of food I'm eating or workouts I'm doing. It's also IronCladBen on Instagram.
And Raw Vegan Hulk is a channel that you promote or not necessarily involved in, but you don't want to go public on that or not?
Well,
I don't even know if it's you doing it.
Well, it's kind of a long story, but this guy and we collaborate on this website. It's called Raw Vegan Hulk, and it's a bunch of raw vegan jokes, but it sort of started us collaborating, but this guy is kind of we don't have the best business relationship, but sometimes I contribute to this page, Raw Vegan Hulk, on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay, cool. Thanks,
All right, thank you.